It is interesting to think about how different the wrestling world could look like if Bret never came to WCW. Like if he never came to WCW and he stays with the WWE, then he's probably there when Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit get there. He's probably there to help crown Stone Cold at WrestleMania 14 in a rematch from WrestleMania 13. He's probably there to do a match with Kurt Angle and so many others. Like him through the Attitude Era. And you kind of wonder, listen, I hate that my mind wanders this way, but you wonder how that may have affected Owen if Bret sticks around and stays in the WWF. Did you think it would have ever worked, Bret and WCW? Did you think, because famously in 96, when he had offers from WCW and the WWF, Vince McMahon said to Bret, WCW wouldn't know what to do with a Bret Hart. And in the end, he wasn't all that wrong. Yeah. Did you think it would work? I mean, you had seen Bret and you had worked with Bret for a long time. You knew what kind of professional he was and what kind of performer he was. Did you think, given the success of Hulk Hogan and Kevin Nash and Scott Hall and Randy Savage and all the other guys who had had so much success in the WWF, they made it work big time in WCW. Did you think Bret could as well?
I've said it many times. In 96, when I went, maybe, what was it, 2 months in, 6 weeks in, a month in, like real quick. And Kevin Sullivan and him laying out the four horsemen. Hey, Jeff, I want you and Flair, all that kind of stuff. As much as I was motivated and my eyes were like, holy crap, this is going to work out. I was, we've talked about it. I was so damn excited to get this opportunity. But I mean, you talk about the reality, the foundational. I mean, I was just shook to my foundation is that, hey man, we're not in Kansas anymore. This ain't Jarrett running the show. This isn't Jerry Lawler running the show. This isn't Carlos Colon running the show. This isn't Tenryu running the show. This is a completely different animal. This is corporate wrestling through and through. So if you think you're talking to the boss, try again, pal, because there's no such thing as the boss. I've really had that complete understanding, shared that conversation with my old man multiple times. It's just like, this is crazy. How the hell is this ever? I've never been a part of something like this. And as the months went on and, Flair had his inner ear problem. And then I get told one story. And then Kevin Sullivan's like, well, we don't really know. And let me talk to Eric. But, well, I don't know because can't do, all the different he said, she said, and this may or may not happen. And not just because of injury, because of the creative. And I can't do this. And the reality is Hogan's got creative control. And what he says, it gets gobbled up into his opponents and then his opponents and then kind of the rest of the card. The reality is the rest of the card has to kind of play off the hand. That's why that creative control card. And that's why, Vince, it is what it is. It ain't happening. And so once you kind of start those dominoes going, Conrad, I absolutely knew. Now, was I having a conscious thought, hey, how's Bret is he going to succeed? It never crossed my mind to even answer that. Had you asked me that, I would have said there's going to be a lot of challenges because he came up in a system that when Vince McMahon made the decision coming out of the steroid that I've got to figure out the new generation. Because that is what opened the door. As great of a wrestler, excellence, execution, best there is, best there was, best there ever will be. He thought he's going to win the title against Hogan and whatever mania that was, and it didn't happen. So the circumstances, but he was a tag guy and intercontinental guy. But as far as being the guy, the door was open based off of that. But he was a WWF model that was nurtured and brought, and his promoter, if you will, was Vince McMahon. When he moved to WCW, he wasn't going to have that promoter. And so Vince is, he said that as a quote. They wouldn't know what to do with the Bret Hart at WCW.
That's what Vince told Bret during their negotiations in '96 when Bret had offers from WCW and the WWF. He said, "Bret, this is your home." The WCW wouldn't know what to do with a Bret Hart, and they didn't.
Buddy, you talk about
Prophetic.
prophetic, but as a promoter, I don't say employee employer, but as that promoter talent relationship, throwing all your cards on the table. Hey, pal, I'm trying to tell you.
Yeah.
There's a lot to that right there. That cuts really. I didn't know that was actually said.
It's a hell of a sentence, isn't it?
Buddy. There's levels of this business that very few people can really peel the layers of the onion back and go, this is best for me to say it right now.
Let's just freestyle this. What if, and again, we're armchair quarterback and we're fantasy quarterbacking here, fantasy booking. Bret sticks around and Sean leaves. Sean goes to WCW. I think it all looks a whole lot different, don't you?
Oh, shit. The what ifs that you play on here, you know where I thought you were going to go with that? I walked out in 95 into my road. Road Dogg had gone through his issues and this and that. And Vince is calling and they're on their way driving to Louisville. What if I would have picked up the phone? Vince, excuse me. What do you want? Jeff, let's just talk this through. You know what I mean? Like, hey, I know you're pissed off, but why don't you take a downbeat? And you know what I mean? Because Vince knew because hell, he was a promoter. B, he knew it was on the other side of the fence.
Oh, wait, so hang on. You're saying you feel like on some level, if you would have answered Vince's call in 95, that he may have said something similar to you, like, hey, WCW doesn't know what to do with a Double J.
Something along in that vein, something in that pain of, just that. And, boy, now I'm getting into the, we're getting into deep counseling here. It is knowing myself so much better than I did then. I probably didn't want to hear that answer.
But you would have been a credible opponent for Bret Hart in 95 and certainly 96. You would have been an incredible opponent for Jeff Jarrett. I mean, for Shawn Michaels in 96. And then by the time,
yes,
that's right. And by the time Austin comes in and Foley comes in and Maivia comes in, you're already established. You've been there, done that, almost like a bulldog, except you weren't going to be a tag guy. I mean, because, you were able to, you had this very hateable quality. I mean, every time you and I do an appearance, people come up and they say, man, I hated you my whole life. And then I started. So you would have been a great heel.
Last night in the concession stand. I got one of those.
I hated you my whole life.
I used to go down to the Civic, blah, 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 whatever. Oh my God, Jeff, I hated Double J. I hated it. And I'm saying that to say, I'm sure Bruce, I'm sure he shared, the Double J persona character. I think Bruce liked it. No, I think Bruce liked it, but I think Vince really liked it because of the emotion that people, it was very hateable.
Yes. You had a very punchable face.
There you go.
And you made a living with that and it did pretty well. Hey, just in time for the holidays, what if you didn't have to worry about any of that credit card debt? If you're feeling stuck making the minimum payments and you don't want to have to put Christmas on a credit card, we can help at savewithconrad.com. We routinely help our listeners save hundreds of dollars a month. Find out how much money you can save right now for free at savewithconrad.com.